Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hey everyone, so good to, not see you, but so glad that you're here. And today, it's a good topic to talk about our fears and that inner self-doubt that we have. And come on, we all have it. Some people call it imposter syndrome, and that's what we're going to talk about. Today, Albert Bramante is here with us, and he is a talent agent, a psychology professor, hypnosis and NLP expert, and author of Rise Above the Script. And he helps performers and educators and creators to unlock their potential by blending psychology, performance strategy, and AI. That'll be interesting. To fuel unstoppable momentum. And that's what we want, is we all want to capitalize off of that momentum and unlock the best parts of ourselves. So without further ado, Albert, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Penny, for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here and to be part of this wonderful podcast and to talk with all of you and share what I can. And hopefully I'm able to be of service.
Well, you just share your knowledge and that will be of service, right? We're talking about imposter syndrome. And, I think that it's at its core, I think that there's some point in everyone's life where they doubt themselves. Maybe they get into a new position that they've never been in before, escalated to a higher level in the organization or in what it is that they're doing. And of course, if they haven't done it before, there might be some self-doubt. And as we take on new challenges, sometimes we question ourselves. And I don't know, we're also the worst critics of ourselves. We would say things to ourselves that we would never say to someone else. So tell me a little bit about what is imposter syndrome from you talk about performance psychology and you teach, what is imposter syndrome exactly?
Well, there's so many kind of various forms of it, and it comes up a lot. I mean, if you want to break it down to text, the textbook definition is feeling like you're a fraud or feeling that you're not capable of whatever it is you're doing. I kind of look at it like the way I approach imposter syndrome is it's not something that we can totally get rid of or like completely banish. I think it can be even used as a superpower to some level because it keeps us humble and grounded. And it keeps our, selves in check. When I say humble and grounded, I've always come from the philosophy that we're always learning, we're always evolving. And we should never just become comfortable and say, okay, we're at the pinnacle or we're at the highest level of success, because there's always more that we can accomplish and more that we can learn.
Absolutely.
So now, for some people, the self-doubt kind of comes in and creeps up because we're still operating on maybe patterns, on subconscious patterns that we've learned or had to witness from our childhood, whether it become from, internalizing the critical parent, internalizing the critical teacher that we've had, that might not have been the most supportive or the most valuable to us. And so we internalize their critical remarks and we start assuming that that's reality, and without even realizing it.
So how do we get past that? Like, okay, we've had maybe a parent who doubted our decisions or told us we weren't good enough, or, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are shaking their head and saying, yeah, they experienced that. How do you get past that?
Well, the first step is acknowledging it and acknowledging it that it's another person's perspective. It's another person's point of view. And I've always
that it's not truth, right? I think that's what you're saying. It's not truth.
It's not objective truth. It's somebody's opinion. And most of the time, when we receive really harsh critical feedback, what's important is to look at the source of it and really take a step back and understand that most of the time, when people offer harsh stinging or critical feedback, they're operating at their own insecurity. They're operating at their own low self esteem and they're projecting it onto other people. So when you realize and kind of helps you take your power back with saying, you know what, it's not about me, it's about them. They felt bad about themselves. So they're projecting that onto other people, they're projecting negative judgments. It's not about me. It's not about the truth. Now, when we take, let's say we get some critical feedback, or we can strip away from like, okay, what is true? Meaning what can we learn from this and what can we improve on our situation? So what feedback can we get from this? So because
So
I
what do
even look
you mean
at
by that?
well,
I mean, I'm
I've,
a firm believer in feedback, but
yeah.
also sometimes if people are giving us criticism, unwarranted, untruthful, so I'm curious as to, where that could be feedback or how
Well,
we could use that feedback. Everything's feedback, right?
yeah. Well, I maybe there's not maybe the feedback in that could be that okay, that's somebody's projection in a sense, and I'm not going to internalize that anymore. Or it could be, well, the method that they delivered that message or feedback was flawed or inappropriate in a sense. But maybe there was a little bit of truth to that. Like, okay, maybe I can improve on this. Maybe I can improve on that. And it's hard to do that, especially when it's somebody we care about, or if it kind of is a message that stings a bit.
I've had plenty of that myself.
Oh, so have I. So have I.
And
So,
I'm curious as to how you handle it, what your personal strategies are. And I can say for myself that I got to a place where, like, my mom said something that I felt was, you know, a little harsh. And it was said, amongst my family. And I know that my brother like flipped out. I'm not going to say what it was exactly, but my brother got more upset than I did because I turned to my heart to say, she didn't mean to hurt me in saying that. And that, if you assume positive intent, that they didn't mean to say it stingingly or hurting, then you can kind of see where it was coming from and see if there is any value in it. Like you can be more objective in it. And that's always helped me in those situations is to assume positive intent wasn't meant to hurt me. What's going on with this person? Maybe they don't know how to handle the situation, or maybe their limitations are different than my limitations and things like that. So that one thing, assume positive intent, is
mhm.
huge for me to be able to take harsh criticism and then say to myself, okay, what can I take from this? Like you said, the feedback, what might be true. And maybe there's nothing. Like sometimes there is nothing. It's someone else's limitations, someone else's perspective. But that just saying, assume positive intent, because these are people in my life that care about me and I know they care about me deep down. So that helps me. What helps you in those situations to, like, ward off the stinging?
Heavily inclined to agree with you there. And that every behavior has a positive intention. I mean, that's really one of the hearts of like NLP coaching. If you look at every behavior as having a positive intention, now it may not be the best intention, it's still the intention was there. So it could be in that situation your mother thought or perceived that she was giving you loving feedback. And of course, it didn't come off like that. And it could be that again, I wouldn't presume to know the situation, but it could be that she was responding in her own pain and coming at
Oh, she
you.
was emotional about a situation. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. Even though it was my situation, she was more emotional and didn't know how to handle it. So came back singing at me. But I'm asking you, like, how do so you said you've had these experiences too?
Yes.
Give us a trick, a tip of how you deal with it that our listeners might be able to say, oh, I can do that.
Well, I would say the first thing is to don't react right away because it's natural for us to get defensive and say, okay, I'm going to give it right back at you. I'm going to now take that, knife that you threw at me. I'm going to throw it right back at you. So
Totally.
to resist
But
that temptation, deep breathing is good.
deep
Take a
breathing.
deep
Okay,
breath
that's what I wanted to know is how do you do it, right? I know we want to stand back away from it, but how do we do it? So deep breathing is something you use?
Yeah, deep breathing, sometimes walking away temporarily. Maybe I need to go for a walk for a little bit.
I
And
just need a timeout.
I need a timeout. I need to process it. I need to marinate on it and take a look deeper at the message here. And one of the things that, going with the every behavior is about the attention, everybody is flawed to some level. I'm flawed. We're all flawed.
Absolutely.
So looking at the source of that feedback, understand that other people have their own limitation and their flaws. And you can forgive that person. Again, when I talk about forgiveness, I don't mean condoning
Of
abuse or
course.
condoning someone to be, critical or abusive towards you. What I'm saying is understanding and at least removing the anger from it. So the deep breathing and the walking away will help simmer the emotional sting out of it, and it'll help you come up with a better response to that and a more of a better understanding of it. And it does take a lot. It's not easy. It's not like, oh, I'm going to just wave a wand and it's going to go away. And that's unrealistic. So I would say the important thing is to not be reactive, not to be immediately respond, because when we respond with emotion, because emotion and logic are two separate things. And when we respond with emotion, we often make mistakes or say things we don't necessarily mean, and things can get out of hand quickly. So that's why, and I'm sure everybody listening with the got into arguments and said something, and 2 minutes later be like, I shouldn't have said that, and wind up apologizing and backtracking. So sometimes it's best not to respond and say, you know what, hear what you're saying. I need to walk away. I need to take a timeout. I will respond back to you, but I need some time to process this. And then really process it. Look at the what was said, not necessarily the tone or how, because a lot of times what people say, people have great, sometimes they're good messages, but the method that they deliver it is not good. So it's sometimes it's not like what they say, it's how they say it too that makes it sometimes stinging. So then what I would say is, okay, look at what they said, not how they said it, but what did they say? And if there's anything, even if it's 10% of what the message is that's truth, adopt it and then discard the other 90%. So, and keep in mind, even though it's our parents, when we're little, we put our parents on pedestals. We put our family on pedestals, our elders and all that. We put them on pedestals. So it then we start to, as we put them on pedestals, and as we get older, we start to realize that they're flawed too. And our parents are not perfect. And therefore, we need to forgive them at some level and realize that they're flawed too. So, even internally, like saying, okay, you know what, mom, I hear what you're saying, but I don't agree.
I've said that.
I did too. And there's
And
nothing
that's
wrong with it.
okay, right?
No,
Is thank you
we
for
don't know.
sharing. You can
And,
say thank you for sharing your thoughts and your opinions.
and I
And
appreciate your concern. Yes,
yeah, and I've chosen to do this or whatever it is. Yeah.
absolutely. And that's where we become start to separate from this stuff that we hear, because a lot of times we internalize things that we don't even realize we're doing. And so then other people's thoughts of ourselves or big, their feedback we receive become internalized into our own thought patterns. And one of the things that we do with communication very often, there's three things that we do. We delete, we distort, and we generalize a lot of time. And we delete sometimes the good things that was said or that's happened to us, and we distort sometimes we blow things out of proportion. It's a habit. We all do that.
Not me.
Of course, not us. But we definitely do that a lot of times. And we generalize. So like somebody with imposter says, I can't ever do anything right. And then sometimes we just have to question in the coaching center, you mean anything? Well, you got up and you got dressed. I mean, you did something right. You showed up for work today.
Right. We tend to focus on, if we're saying that, right, then we're focused on all the things that we think we didn't do right versus all the
Mhm.
things that we did.
Yeah. We kind of have like that sort of like a negativity bias. So we could get sometimes 20 compliments from our coworkers, our team, our clients, and maybe we'll get again that biting remark from a family member or that stinging remark from a critic or someone who's not a fan of our work. And very often it takes a lot of discipline to not focus on that solely. Because most, especially, and this is something I've done a lot, I've been guilty of this too, is I'll focus a lot on that one negative piece of information. I just received 20 compliments on this. And, and I can relate just being a college professor because I've taught for over 20 years. It would be unrealistic for me to tell you that I'm not going to have students that are not going to like me as a professor. I was probably public enemy number one for a good number of the students. So at the end of the semester, we would get evaluations, which are honestly an objective evaluation. And for me, most of the time, luckily, I would say 80 to 85% of the time, they're overwhelmingly positive. But every semester, I would get a handful that were critical and some that were downright like scathing.
Mm.
And when I was first teaching, I would focus on the ones that were scathing and I would be really upset that I had two or three negative ones and not realizing I had 50 positive ones. But I was so focused on what did I do wrong? I failed. And
It's human
so,
nature, though, isn't it? I mean, it seems to be many people do that, right? So they
yeah,
see
well,
that, they want to do their best. They want to be liked and seen as a great leader, a great teacher, a great speaker. How do you, especially because you get, as a teacher, like you said, you get every semester, you get new ratings and you have to deal with this on a regular basis. How do you help yourself to focus more on the positive and not give as much weight or let those negative ones trigger you?
so, well, I think, first of all, just a lot of it is just by doing this through experience and overwhelmingly, the positive feedbacks are consistent. That would be number one. That kind of help power through this.
So there's got
But
to be some
all,
truth to that, right? If you're hearing the same thing over and over
yeah.
about what's good.
And also, what I was going back to what I said earlier about the feedback, I would then look back and say, okay, the scathing reviews that I got, was there anything in there that I can improve? Because I'm not perfect. Maybe, some of them would say like they needed the notes to be clearer. Okay. Well, now that's something I can incorporate now. So I know to do that differently next time. So I would really then kind of go back and look at those scathing reviews again. Because if it's somebody who just says, I don't like the class, well, there's nothing I can do about that.
Right.
But if it was like, I don't like the class because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, then I would look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and say, is there anything in there that I can use as feedback so that I can do that? And then that takes away the sting of it. And also, just a lot of times when people take, whether it's a negative review on Yelp for any or any negative review on a business, a lot of times people are taking out their own frustrations, again, projection. So maybe there's nothing we can do about
Well,
that.
and I think sometimes it can be a mismatch of expectations. Somebody could come into the course or, into my presentation or whatever and might have a different idea of what they were going to get out of it. And
Mhm.
therefore, whenever there's a mismatch of expectations, that can create an emotional response.
Yeah, and there could be other stuff that are not inside of our control. Maybe I remind them of an uncle or a relative that that caused them trauma or
Totally.
pain,
Yeah.
and they're not gonna, no matter what you can do. Because I had, even I had teachers sometimes that were critical of me growing up, and then I realized that I reminded them of a bully that they had when they were a child. I looked, and that's not my control. I mean, it's not fair, but it's not my control. So
Mhm.
I can then choose to do what I want with that and say, okay, well, if that's not my control, why am I going to put myself and spend a lot of energy focusing on that? And part of it, I think, is just maturity and just getting the wisdom in, over time. Because what I've learned, especially something I wish I knew when I was 18, the insight that I knew now is that we're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, no matter how much we try to do it. We're just not going to be everyone's cup of tea. We're not going to be everyone's favorite. And it kind of incorporate that now when I teach every semester. I'm like, look, and I tell my students this, I'm like, some of you are going to like the class, and there may be some of you that, I may not be the best instructor for you. I may not be the one that, and then I'll say, if there's something that is not working for you, please, let's talk about it. If there's something that can help you have the best experience, let's talk about that. Now, most of the time I don't hear from these students, and yet there's nothing I can do about that because I'm like, well, I offered. Was there adults? And so the important thing is, I think, take the source of the matter, take the source of the person that is giving you that feedback. And again, is it something you should pay attention to? Because we're wired to pay attention to the negative, and that has actually helped us survive. Because now we may not have the same threats that we have hundreds or even thousands of years ago, but when we were Neanderthals or hunter gatherers, we had threats constantly every day, and those negative signals we had to pay attention to if we wanted to survive. Now, our brains, even though our situations have changed drastically for the better, our brain is still the same. And that's why our reptilian brain is sort of like negative. Okay, let me go right to that.
And reactive. Yeah.
Yeah.
To train ourselves to show up differently.
And it takes practice, it takes discipline. So there's
So,
no magic pill that I can tell you, okay, this is what's going to.
oh, well, you just ruined it for me. There's no magic pill. I thought you were going to give me the pill.
Yeah. Well,
That's not fair.
I know, but.
Let me run you through a quick lightning round and then we'll wrap up for today. And these are quick, rapid answers, right? Something when you were young that you questioned yourself about.
I would say my ability, my ability to be successful because I had, again, a lot of critical family members and teachers. So,
Okay. How about favorite song to get out of a funk? Shift your
I
mind.
would, I would have to say I'm old school. This is going to really age me here, but I would have to say like Uptown Funk.
Okay. Like it?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm very much into like Sugar Hill Gang in the early '80s. So that's again your millennials and Gen Z. I would look that up because it's really a good one. So
Great. Person in your life that lifted you up.
ah, well, there's a couple, but I would say probably one of my high school teachers and mentors who really got me interested into psychology and counseling. So his name is Tony. He's still alive. I still talk to him.
Great. Worst advice you ever had?
Our parents are perfect, and no, our parents know everything.
Right. We're just human. I'm a parent, so I can say that. We're human. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
Sure. Well, you can follow me on socials, but I would definitely go to my website, albertbramante.com. You can follow me also on Instagram and LinkedIn. And I would also recommend checking out my book on Amazon. It's Rise Above the Script, Confronting Self-Doubt, Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists. And whether you're a performing artist or not, there's a lot of information that's valuable to you, and it's available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you again for having me, Penny. Happy to be here.
And thank you all for being here. Appreciate you and want you to know that we all have that little annoying gremlin on our shoulder or whatever you want to call it that speaks to us and says not nice things and doesn't believe in us. But remember, there's also one on your other shoulder, right? There's two parts of us. And for every word of negativity and doubt holding us back, there's the other side that is untapped potential, that believes in you and that will lift you up. So remember that you have access to both of them. And so learn to quiet the critic and really listen to that part of yourself that wants to thrive and grow and be your best self. And remembers that you're also human. And when you fall down or you make a mistake, that's where that feedback comes in that Albert was talking about, is that feedback helps us to get back up and get better and learn and grow as we go along. My name is Penny Zinker, and it's time to reset. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.